No, such a powerful word. And it's one that we often underutilize or we don't use it enough. And I know this may sound a little contrarian, but we often don't say no enough and we wind up saying yes to things that we don't want to do or we don't have the capability to do or maybe we don't have the energy to do and it winds up leading to a bunch of overwhelm which leads to a bunch of procrastination. So in this video I'm going to teach you three simple ways that you can help to get back your own power and how to use no effectively and efficiently and without guilt. So here we go. So first step, the first thing about knowing how to say no and really taking back your power and your energy and your time and getting over the procrastination when it comes to that is to pause before responding. Now, I get it, I'm an ex people pleaser myself and I still find myself sometimes saying yes to things like right away, right? It's like, hey, you want to go to that party day? Oh, yes, of course I do. Of course I do. You want to work late on the weekend? Yeah, of course I do. Why not? Hey, do you want to help me move my sofa out of the basement this weekend? Yeah, why not? Hey, a bunch of the guys and us are going out for a drink tonight. You want to go? I don't even drink, but hell, I'll go. Do you find yourself doing that? So, really, we want to give that pause before responding. You want to evaluate the request or the thing that they're asking you to do or participate in. Really take a look at it, but not only mentally, also feel it in your body physically. And the reason that I say this is because a lot of the time our head and our body don't agree on a ton of things, but you will want to make sure that both are in alignment as much as possible in order to avoid, any sort of conflict, which is going to make you feel, I guess, for lack of a better word, icky about something that you're doing, right? And I'll give you an example. So let's say that Susie invites me over to her Christmas party. Now, in my head, I'm saying, oh, but I've already got Bob's party and I gotta go see the in-laws and I gotta get presents that day and the traffic. So I'm not really gung ho on going, right, in my head, but my body, my mouth is saying, oh, of course, I'll be there, or even worse, I'll try to be there. Even when in your head, that you don't have the bandwidth probably to do it. So now, not only are you setting yourself up to not go to the party, which is disappointing Susie, which is what you probably didn't want to do in the first place, you're also going to wind up beating yourself up and you're going to be exhausted trying to figure out how to fit Susie's party in right up until the time when you can't make it. So why would you do that to yourself? Just learn to say no. No. Just learn to say no. And we'll get into, the ways to do that in the next step. But I wanna touch on the body as well, because sometimes the body really wants to go, but the mind says no, right? I'm sorry, sometimes the mind really wants to go, but the body says no. And we have this where use that same example, Susie's Christmas party. Well, if I take the pause and I say, "Yes, I'd love," I'm thinking, "Yeah, that sounds like fun. I'd love to go. I don't have any other commitments. Why not?" Right? But if I feel in my body there's a little bit of a resistance, I'll want to take the pause and see why is there that resistance. And it may be because your body knows best. It really does. It receives millions of signals every day and it has a greater memory than we even give it credit for usually. So when that sort of situation happens where you're like, yeah, I'll go. That sounds really fun, but your body says, well, why is your body saying? And so if you examine that, you might find out that, oh, yes, well, I don't know Susie that well. It does sound fun, but I have a little apprehension because, maybe I don't know anybody else there. Or maybe, the last time you went, you got a little sick or something, and that could be it. But the point is that you want your body and your mind in alignment as much as possible. So taking that pause to say no and evaluating really does help. Now, the second step here is the gentle decline, and you're going to want to practice it, script it. You know, Susie, I'm sorry, I don't think I'll be able to make your Christmas party, but that's not enough. Susie, no, unfortunately, I won't be able to make your Christmas party. Let her down easy, right? We don't have to be, rude about it. We just have to practice it because it can be, uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable to say no, very uncomfortable. We don't want to let the other person down. We don't want to seem like we're unwilling. We don't want to, we want to please sometimes, right? And The way I think about this is I go back to Avich's levels where, the guy sort of he practices no and he jumps up and he dances around and just writes no everywhere. I'm not saying do that, but practice. Just practice writing out no. See how it feels. Write out different things, practice saying no with it. And again, we're not going to, slam the door in people's faces, so to speak. But we are going to say, no, I don't have the bandwidth for that. For example, if it's like a job or somebody you don't know. If it's somebody you know, you may want to be a little bit more descriptive and give them a little bit more backstory, but that's totally up to you. So another example I like for this is Caesar in the Planet of the Apes. When Caesar was finding his voice, right? Yeah, at first he sort of whispered, and then he went no, and then he just ran around the forest screaming no, 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 right? So, and it was really empowering. That scene in the movie really sticks out to me, and it just goes to show you how you can kind of take back your power and how empowering no really is. Now, I'm not saying go out and start an ape revolution, by the way. I'm just, it's an example. Now, the last step that I have for you today to really get into your power and being able to say no effectively and without guilt, keyword here is without guilt, because a lot of the times when we start to say no to things, we tend to feel guilty. And we feel guilty because we are not confident and we are not sure in ourselves, in our priorities, or in our core values. And it's very important to know what those core values are. And this goes back to the whole mind body connection thing as well. Because if you are doing something, you say yes to something that does not align in your core values, it is going to feel wrong. And by feeling wrong, I mean it's going to feel constricting, restrictive, and it's not very enjoyable, right? Whereas if you do something that's aligned with your core values, it is going to feel rejuvenating and filled with joy, and you're going to have an enjoyable time doing it. Now, that's not to say that we don't have to do things sometimes where it's against the core values, but we should do it at a minimum, as little as possible. And what do I mean by this? So when we're taking the pause, I'm going to go back to that pause for a second, and also to the mind body connection, right? So if somebody says to you, "Hey, why don't you help me move my sofa out of the basement?" Okay. So, what are my core values? My core values are honesty, integrity, loyalty, and friendship. So, if this person's a friend, I'm going to want to say yes. I'm going to say yes. Likely, I'll find a way to say the yes. But if this is like a roommate in college or something, who asked me to move their sofa on a Saturday morning, I might say, I'm sorry, I don't, no. And I'm just going to leave it at that because they're an acquaintance, they're not a friend, right? And especially if, one of your core values or one of your priorities on Saturday mornings is self-care. You definitely don't want to overrate your self-care. So leave a comment down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Let me know which of these tips resonated with you, or maybe none of it resonated with you. Let me know that as well. And let's just get a discussion around saying no. And I'll see you in the next video.